frank, though, and say that while Fnatic did what was required to win the game, I feel it was Millenium losing the game is a slightly bigger story. They had such an immense lead. They had multiple inhibitors. And yes, both teams had the ability to wave clear and defend and turtle. Please, I don't want to take anything away from what Fnatic did, but at the same token, Millenium just couldn't find a way in. There is so much to talk about. Let's start at the end before we go back to the beginning. What was it that dragged that game out for 37 million years longer than anybody was expecting?
Well, the fact that Fnatic could just constantly wave clear and they had the threat of starting a team fight onto someone like Creaton. And actually when they should have lost the game, they had the team fight in mid lane where they actually catch out Creaton with a very nice solo flare from Yellowstar, of course. Gets onto him, the Mikhails from Jerry isn't being used onto Creaton, and also the ultimate. Comes in, yes, but when he spawns up, he just gets destroyed by Fnatic, and they actually win the fight. They get the Baron, they push down, get 2 inhibitors, and now the whole game just got delayed by, I think, 20 minutes more. So simply just the fact that Millenium weren't able to teamfight properly in the late game meant that Fnatic, despite actually having a weaker combo late, still managed to win.
Yeah, I agree. Like, a lot of people got caught out, and then Creaton gets caught out in a teamfight. Jerry is not ready to use the Mikhail's Crucible on him in time for him to actually get away. They might even have won the game if they had used that. I also think, in general, like, they tried to block Gragas' ultimate with, like, hourglasses and stuff. After you use the hourglass, you need to engage if Gragas is only using the ultimate on one guy. If the ultimate is down, it's 40-second cooldown. The 6 hourglass cooldown is like 90 seconds. All the Fnatic has to do in the end was like basically just, okay, 6 no hourglass, I have ultimate up again, okay, let's go fight. Stuff like that, people need to capitalize on it.
Yeah, let's go back a little bit, because that getting picked, getting caught out is something that we've seen in the mid-game that probably is in large part the reason this game was so extended. On both sides, both Millenium and Fnatic had multiple members getting caught out that, they were out of position and whatnot. But the very early game, Millenium did very well. We talked through picks and bans. Millenium, they got Ziggs on Curb. Froggen's been talking about it all day. We've seen Zillion on Jerry, once again, talking about it all day long. And we've seen Hecarim out of RNA. It worked very well. RNA had 100% kill participation up until about the 25-minute mark. And I think by the end of it, he's still in the 90s for kill participation. I was very impressed by their play. Let's start with the lane swaps very early on, because this was something we were discussing that we felt Millenium actually did very well.
Yeah, I actually agree with the way Millenium decided to handle the lane swap. Only mistake was the fact that Kevin actually stayed at his turret. There was no ward, so he didn't see Cyanide coming in. Had he spotted Cyanide, or had he expected the gank, he would have backed away from the turret, and they had actually given up the bot or the top turret for the bot turret. Fair enough trade, 1-for-1 there. Meanwhile, though, Aranea was farming the jungle, so he got ahead, XP-wise and also gold-wise compared to Cyanide, and would have been fine for him. He didn't have to go bot lane because Cillian and Caitlyn diving in Renekton with Hecarim, not ideal combo to dive, it's a very risky dive to do. So I think he did the right thing. The only mistake was the fact that Kevin actually stayed at the turret and ended up giving up first blood and turret.
Yeah, I have to agree. For the first 20 to 25 minutes, Millenium, except for the first blood onto Kevin, they didn't really have any bad decision making. They picked their fights well. They didn't overextend or die. But then all the picks came later on in the game.
Yeah. Now let's talk about some of the team fights in the extra uber mega late game, because we hit the 35-minute mark and then all of a sudden everybody just stalled. There were some inhibitors, there were some barons. Millenium dove into fights where maybe they shouldn't have. What's your take on Millenium's team comp and the way they dealt with the Gragas, the Lucian, the Leona in that sort of like, let's say 35 to 55-minute mark?
So I think they should have played a bit more like IG does, because they have the Olaf, they have the Cillian and they have the Hecarim. Just get into Fnatic backline, while your Caitlyn and your Ziggs can hammer away. Even Ziggs can help with his ultimate onto the backline. And it's like, the Lucian and the Gragas should die if Hecarim, Ziggs ultimate, maybe even Caitlyn ultimate, and then Olaf all being on top of them. They need to die. And like, even if one of the tanks will die, they're gonna get the Cillian ultimate. So I think they could have played way more aggressive.
Agree 100%, especially in the team fight we saw in the mid lane where they actually gave up 2 kills, Fnatic got down, got the 2 inhibits. It was basically Olaf running towards Creaton, who was dying with the Cillian ultimate, trying to help him out. Meanwhile, the backline of Fnatic, untouched. Just stood there, hammered away all the time. And in general, teamfights from Millenium side in the late game, very split up. I mean, except for that one. Normally then, they would just split up, they would run different directions. We even saw Kevin around the Baron mark with about 20% HP. He just runs into the face of Peke, all alone. Ultimate from Peke, instant dies, and that's it. Like, you have to question the individual decisions for both teams in this game, and it's also why it got so drawn out.
Well, I'm so glad you actually bring that up, because the summary of everything we've talked about so far: Kevin sticking around at the tower, Aranea having fantastic decisions, Jerry having great ultimates, and let's be frank, terrible ultimates. Reckless getting caught out once again, not using his barrier, dying to Ace in the hole. He died to your Requiem in the LCS not 2 or 3 weeks ago. Maybe a little bit of confidence in that play. And let's also be frank, a fair number of Peke's Gragas ultimates were also not ideal. Using the explosive cost to pop a Banshee's Veil is never acceptable when that is such an immense tool for both damage and displacement.
I have to agree, but I also think it's important that he keeps trying. Because some of his ultimates later on in the game, maybe after missing 4 or 5 in a row onto a Banshee's Veil, he actually hit some really good ultimates later on, and I think that's really important that he kept trying.
And we just have, actually, we have to give credit to Peke. While he did have some ultimates that missed, he was the big player when it came to the very end of the team fights. The very last team fight where he actually survives the burst onto him, picks up a double kill. He had a score of 8-3-5 in the game. And he was just constantly being annoying for Millenium to deal with. He was constantly there trying to make plays. So he actually did a very good job. And then, well, Soaz and Kevin, both top laners, not impressed this game. Both actually got caught out multiple times, died. We often saw Aranea catching out Soaz, killing him in the mid lane where just speed up with Cillian and Hecker him, catch him with the fear, kill him. I mean, both top laners, very shaky games.
Well, final thoughts, Froggen. Do you have anything to add before we move on? No, perfect. Well, an incredible game. It lasted an incredibly long amount of time. Because of the awesomeness of the match, I believe we have an interview with both of the Spaniards, of Aranea and Xpeke. Shox is waiting on stage with them right now, so congratulations to Fnatic.